All right.
We're taking all the best old school wisdom and blending it with the top new school methods to bring you the optimal coaching strategies. This is the 80-20 Baseball Podcast with Coach Bo.
Fired up for this week's episode 116 coming at you. I want to start by saying I hope you all are doing well. I hope this week and this episode finds you having a great week. I hope things are going well for you and your family. I want to wish you the best as we get closer and nearer and into the baseball season. We are coming off a three-part interview with Coach Ryan Foe, who's over there with Psych Athletes, doing a great job of really emphasizing the importance and diving in to some of these topics that are a little harder to dive into, that sometimes we don't really want to get into, but we know we need to get into. With that said, we discussed Dr. Ken Ravizza, the late, great Ken Ravizza last week. We brought him up. He's the godfather, considered the godfather of the baseball mental game and one of the godfathers of sports athletic mental game preparation. Talk about an upbeat person, somebody who was always upbeat, somebody who was always positive. He made you feel good. He made you want to be around him. Dr. Ken Ravizza sadly passed away not that long ago, but his work along with Tom Hansen, who co-authored what is considered the number one spot to reference, the number one point of reference for the mental game. Heads Up Baseball is the title of the book they wrote. I got the original copy, the original edition in front of me. In fact, this thing is so old, it has Bobby written on the inside. I haven't been called Bobby since I was in middle school, and I left middle school back in 1995. So I got this book in front of me, and this is something that is just near and dear to my heart, but this is the pinnacle of the mental game literature. Yeah, there are a lot of other good books out there, and there have been a lot of good books on the mental game that have come out since then, but this is what started it all in a way. And so after the great conversation, the great interview I had with Coach Ryan Foe, I wanted to bring this to the forefront. I want to break down this book. I want to dive in. Actually, I already dove in for about the fifth time. I read the entire book the other night. I made notes on it, put Post-its. I started putting stickies and notes all over it. Next thing you know, I was 15 Post-its deep, 16 Post-its deep on this book. I'm not going to share all of those Post-its, but what I want to do, and this is something, and I'm doing this because I feel this is something, I believe this is something that can help all of us, not only out there on the baseball field to help our players be better, to be better players on the field, to have more success, to have longer careers, to have more fun, but also as coaches to have more fun. We can use these mental skills to be better coaches. Everything that we're teaching our players throughout this book, or should I say through this book, through the information and the knowledge and the wisdom that this book provides, everything that we teach our players, everything we learn from this book can be used to help our coaching game. So it helps our coaching game the same way it helps the players and their game. And it also, and this is the biggest benefit of it all, is going to help us and our players in life. These are the skills that our kids, ourselves need more now more than ever. So I'm going to dive in. I'm going to share out over the next month. I am going to dive into this book, and I'm going to couple it, each episode, with some other information, some other things that are not mental game strategies. So I'm going to mix it together. Today, I'm going to briefly touch on, before we get into the top tips from this book, Heads Up Baseball, Playing the Game One Pitch at a Time by Dr. Ken Ravizza and Tom Hansen. Before we get into this, I want to talk quickly about what I think is probably the best tweet I have seen since I got on Twitter. I'm pretty new to Twitter. I've been on there a couple of years now, and I look at all the tweets that come on my feed. I don't check it all day long. I check it typically once a day, and there's just some really good stuff on there. I don't think Twitter is a great platform for a lot of things. I think it's a waste of time for a lot of things. I don't do anything but follow baseball, mental health stuff, things like that, but it's really focused and really acute, my area of follow. I'll tell you what, this tweet that I saw the other day, I wish I could take credit for it. Man, I was jealous that I didn't send it because this was so awesome. And I see some great tweets every once in a while. I recommend going and getting Twitter. I know a lot of people don't support Twitter and their deplatforming of certain people and certain things that are being said. And yeah, nobody's a fan of that, or they shouldn't be a fan of that, because when when it comes back around and gets them, they're not going to be laughing. And so with that said, I do keep it baseball specific. And I recommend if you get on there, if you can, you don't have to donate money to Twitter and things like that and write them a check. But if you can get on there in that baseball community, it's a really good community. Hey, if not, no worries. It's all good. Hopefully another platform or two will come up so there's some alternative options for this sort of thing. But nonetheless, this was probably the best tweet that I had seen. And here is all it said. All it said was, Vontae Mack, no matter what. And this was Rob Younce at Robbie Younce. I was going to say at Robbie Younce. Well, I'll tell you what, this was not just an ounce of wisdom right here from Robbie Younce. He really pounced on a good one here. And I'll tell you what, this has got to be the best tweet I have seen. And I see good tweets every day, if not 3 or 4 really good ones a week. Vontae Mack, no matter what. Now, if you have seen the video, the movie, Draft Day by Kevin Costner, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. And if you haven't seen Draft Day by Kevin Costner, you're missing out. You need to go watch that tonight. You need to watch that tomorrow. I wouldn't wait more than a couple days. Yeah, sure, it's a couple hours. That's hard to carve out in a busy schedule. Watch an hour tonight, watch 2 hours. Trust me, it is worth it. If you're a coach and you have not already watched Draft Day with Kevin Costner, go watch it. Go watch it. I promise you won't be disappointed. And it is the message, the underlying message that wraps the whole plot together. That is probably the number one message that we need to have as coaches. That's coaching people, and I'm not going to give it away. Vontae Mack, no matter what. Go watch it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Watch the movie, and you'll know exactly the message that I'm sharing. This is a massive message. And not just me, but Rob Younce, who put this tweet out. 5 words says about 75% of what matters the most when it comes to coaching. So I was going to share out a good practice tip this week with coaches, but I came across this tweet and I had to bring it up ASAP. Vontae Mack, no matter what, by Rob Younce. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, you're blowing it out of proportion. Trust me, this is a big thing. This should be, and when you watch the video, if you've already seen the movie, if you haven't, once you see it, this should drive everything you do as a coach. This should be the driving force around everything you do as a coach. Not just when it comes to building a team, but the kind of players that you want your team to be made up of and the kind of people that you want your players to become as they get older. A goal, a beacon, a compass that keeps you focused on what's important and where you want your players to be. Not just as the athlete, but as the person. And I'm going to tie it in with Tom Brady retiring. This has something to do. It's tied together. It's not the New England Patriots. It's not Tom Brady. But the message is tied together. Tom Brady was the 199th pick in the draft. 199th that year. He was basically the 200th pick that year. I believe he was a 6th rounder, maybe the last pick in the 6th round or the last pick in the 5th round. Anyways, 199th pick. But every scouting report, almost every single scouting report about Tom Brady coming out of the University of Michigan said about the same thing. It wasn't anybody, there wasn't a scouting report, there wasn't anybody going in with their draft analysis that said anything close to what happened. They couldn't see deep down. They didn't see what they couldn't evaluate with a stopwatch or with how far a football goes on the field or the velocity of his throws or his 40-yard dash time. They couldn't see what made him the 7-time Super Bowl champ. And I'll tell you what, I'm gonna go off here real quick. I'm gonna spin off. It does not surprise me that Tom Brady exited stage left without the what you're seeing as a common occurrence, the 1-year farewell tour that a lot of players are doing. I love it. And in fact, I thought about this, I'm not too much. I thought about this about 6 months ago. I said, you know what? I hope Tom Brady plays forever. I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back like in 2 years, like an extended vacation, comes back. Dude could probably play better than average in the NFL until he's 50. I think he takes a couple years off, has fun with his kids and then wants to come back out. But Tom Brady is the kind of guy that doesn't want a farewell tour. You see this from time to time. You're seeing this more and more, this announcing it the year before. I just saw a coach announce that this is their last year. I'm telling you what. Be the person that doesn't announce it. Tell your team, don't wait till the last minute. Tell your team in advance, but don't announce it to the world. You don't need a farewell tour. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. In my opinion, I wouldn't do it. I don't like the farewell tour. I think if you're a coach, you should definitely and I know you're youth coaches that most of what we're talking about. So, but if you're like a college coach or a pro coach or a manager, you shouldn't announce, the year before. I wouldn't do it, but nonetheless, it is what it is. Who am I to judge? I got flaws. I'm not perfect. So, with that said, Tom Brady didn't surprise me that he went out because that's the kind of guy he is. Watch this movie, I should say. I keep calling it a video. Watch that movie, Draft Day. You'll see the commonality. Vontae Mack, no matter what, you're going to see Tom Brady, kind of that mind. Go watch it. All right. Now for Heads Up Baseball, Tom Hansen, Ken Revisa. I had a lot of experience with Ken Revisa. Worked with me in high school with my high school baseball team. Had a Hall of Fame high school baseball coach, one of the best programs in the entire country in the 90s. And in fact, even in the 80s and even into the 2000s, Coach Mike Curran, who was the baseball coach over there, just a phenomenal coach in a lot of ways. I didn't agree with him on everything, but man, oh man, he was ahead of his time on so many things. He brought in Ken Revisa to work with us, and then I went to Long Beach State for 4 years. I was lucky enough to play there 4 years, and not just playing along just a bunch of guys who got drafted, major league guys. Ken Revisa was there all the time for 4 years. We would do hours on end with Ken Revisa. Dave Snow, the head coach that I played for my first 2 years at Long Beach State, he was a huge believer in Ken Revisa's message and how much it could help players not just win as people, but win on the scoreboard as well. Mental toughness, mental confidence, presence, not spiraling out of control. We're going to talk about that. So I got well versed on this for about 5 years, and then I've just stayed with it. I've studied it, and I'd like to break down 3 big tips that I got from the book, that I pulled out of the book, I want to share with you. And we're going to start right on page 2. Players spiraling out of control. Spiraling out of control, and it starts with something relatively minor. A bad call by an umpire, walking a batter if you're the pitcher, misplaying a ball in the field. And I'm quoting straight from the book here, Heads Up Baseball. If you don't already own it, you need to get this book. There is the new version, Heads Up Baseball 2.0, that is on audiobook, so go get that. It's worth your time. Like I said, it's not just going to help your players play better out on the field. It's going to help you be a better coach. It's going to help everybody in their lives. Get it, listen to it. Here we go, page 2. Bad call by an umpire, walking a batter, misplaying a ball, swinging and missing at a pitch in the dirt. Those are little things. Those are small things that start to spiral out of control mentally, spiral into a place of negativity, self-doubt, and it just leads to overall poor performance, really bad performance. The point of this is it starts with one event. It starts with one thing. So what he's trying to say is, in the book, him and Tom are trying to say, let's stop that from spiraling out of control. Let's have awareness. Have awareness as a coach that a player had an event happen to him or her that may lead or will lead or is already leading them to spiraling out of control. So I don't want to just read straight from the book. I want to add my 2 cents to this. What you need to be careful of here and when you're coaching, and what you can find useful from this message of, hey, a lot of the mental game, the negative thought, the self-doubt, the tanking, the player going into a slump per se, going into a bad place mentally, it typically can start with just one event or one bad game. It could be one bad at bat. It could be one bad inning as a pitcher, and that can lead to a downward spiral. So we want to catch it. This is the message of this first part. Page 2, this message on page 2, what I want to share with you is we need to catch this as coaches. We need to have strategies as coaches. One thing you can do is not emphasize that the game is such a big deal, that it's massively life-changing. It's so important. Every game is do or die. By sending that message, then you're putting a lot of pressure on a player. So when they fail, that pressure and the avalanche is much deeper. It's like, hey, if you have an avalanche, if you ever watched any avalanche videos, they don't really, the skiers, the snowboarders, they don't really worry about the 2-foot deep avalanche. They worry about it when half the dang mountain comes down and now you're buried under 16 feet of snow. That's a whole different ball game. So what we're trying to do is stop their negative thoughts, their bad response to something or the poor response. They're kids, they're teenagers, but they're young. They're going to do this. What we need to do is, as coaches, is set up an environment where it's not do or die in their head. Their mindset is not like, oh my God, this is do or die. We also need to make sure that we're okay with them failing and they're okay with them failing, and that they don't need to look over their shoulder and stress out every time they swing and miss at a bad pitch. Be genuine with this. Don't just give the platitude, the clapping, oh, it's all good, and then later treat them differently or treat them in a way that would make them feel like, oh, I let the coach down big time. I let the team down. Yeah, so they might have, but we need to make sure that we don't make it any bigger a deal than they already are going to make it. In fact, you should have players on your team that want to go out and be successful. So you shouldn't just be having to slam a bunch of pressure on them to get the job done. You're not playing for a bottom line. It's not survival out on the Serengeti. It's not survival on Kodiak Island in Alaska. Playing baseball is not some 1847 voyage to the South Pole or whatever, 1870 voyage to the South Pole where a mistake will kill everybody. It's baseball. It's supposed to be fun. There should be some pressure, and pressure's okay, and we shouldn't try to take the pressure off. But if we make an environment of practice that has a lot of pressure, that'll make the game a lot better, because at practice, there's nobody in the bleachers. How many people are in the bleachers at practice? Nobody? A couple people? They're not even paying attention. All right, it might be a mom over there grading papers. She's a teacher. Somebody else on their phone. They're not paying attention. The other team is not there. The peers from the town, the peers that they go to school with, they're not out there. It's just their teammates. Now, yeah, there's still teammates out there, so when they make a mistake, but if they make enough mistakes in front of their teammates in a game that doesn't have a scoreboard to reflect that mistake with a big number that shows something going up for the other team or causing their team or preventing their team from scoring more runs, your team from scoring more runs, if that's not up there in the spotlight, it's not up there on the scoreboard, in practice, it's not as big a deal. So make practice challenging. Make practice challenging, not the entire thing, but make it challenging, because players are going to feel less pressure in the game. And then when it starts to spiral, our response, we should jump on it quickly to the player. But this needs to be a consistent message throughout the season, from day to day, that it's okay to make mistakes. You can't just be all on them, harping in their ear, eyeing them down, staring them down, yelling at them. And then all of a sudden, when they don't do well, or they make a mistake, or they walk a couple batters, or they strike out, or they swing at a bad pitch, or the ball goes between their legs, you can't just go, well, it's going to be okay, you'll get them next time. You haven't laid the foundation for that. You haven't laid the groundwork. You've been saying other things. You've been doing other things. So they know that's, oh, well, he's just saying that because he wants me. The coach just wants me to fix it real quick so so he can win the game. You have to send the message that, hey, we're out here to have fun, but it's just a game. We're out here to do our best. We're out here to win if we can, but it's a game that should be fun, enjoyable, challenging, but it shouldn't be an end-all, be-all. So the message here, catching things before they spiral out of control. Here we go. I'm going to quote right from it. Players often allow negative events from one pitch to carry over into the next pitch, causing them to spiral out of control and leaving them the difficult challenge of playing more than one pitch at a time. And we're going to get back to that one pitch at a time a little later. All right. Page 5, not going very far before just massive nuggets. I went through and I just dug out the biggest nuggets that I thought I could provide and share with you. Page 5, although these negative emotions may seem natural when things aren't going well, nothing forces you to feel this way. We mentioned earlier that fear, worry, tension, doubt, and other negative emotions are obstacles that get in the way of our performance. You have to realize, our players have to realize that each of these is the result of their own thinking, of our own thinking. And I'll wrap it up by quoting this. Look at it this way. The book says, quote, look at it this way. None of these obstacles is found in the official baseball rulebook. Nowhere does it say, if the pitcher has walked the bases loaded, he shall put himself in a tense and angered state. Nor will you find, if a batter has not hit safely in his last 7 turns at bat, he must spend his time questioning whether he will ever get another hit. These are a result of our own thinking. Yeah, it's natural, it's normal. Here's one thing that I say a lot when I work with young players with a lot of mental health issues, and I say this, I go, here is the message. What you're going through, what you're thinking, this mental health challenge, this struggle out there on the field, or whether it's in the classroom or in life, I say, yeah, that's normal, but it's not healthy. Yeah, that's normal, and that's a common occurrence, but it's not optimal. There's a big difference between normal and optimal. So yeah, players get these thoughts. This happens a lot. It's normal, but it's not ideal. It's normal, but it's not optimal. And it goes on to say, most athletes leave their thinking to chance. If they're playing well, they're thinking confident. If they're not playing well, then they're thinking negatively. This is something that we need to be very careful of and cognizant of. This is why it's so important to be present, not dwell on the past, not stress and think about the future that much, plan for the future, but let's live in the moment, take care of the moment, pitch to pitch, one pitch at a time. The number one phrase, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about today in this episode about this book, the tagline, the catchphrase, the entire book could be summed up in one short sentence: play the game one pitch at a time. I have another book near me called So What Next Pitch by Brian Cain. So what next pitch? So what next thing in life? And it's interesting, the whole mental baseball coaching community is tied together in a lot of ways, based a lot from Southern California. Most of the baseball mental coaching community is a disciple, or they come off of the tree and the branches of the Ken Revisas and the Tom Hansons from years ago. The foreword in the book, So What's Next Pitch by Brian Cain, the foreword is by Dave Serrano. Dave Serrano is the head baseball coach at Cal State Northridge. He was at the University of Tennessee and in Cal State Fullerton before that. At Cal State Fullerton is where Ken Revisa taught for many years. He was actually a professor at Cal State Fullerton, which is one of the best known, well-known, least funded, probably one of the least funded. If you divided national title up by funding, they would have the lowest funding per national title easily in Division I baseball. I grew up going to Cal State Fullerton baseball games. My mom would drop me off. They won the national title in 1995. One of the greatest teams in the history of college baseball. Mark Kotze was the Golden Spikes Award winner. It went down, I think, as the number one Baseball America, or somebody rated that as the best baseball team ever in the history of college baseball, the 1995 Cal State Fullerton Titans. And I went to a ton of games at Cal State Fullerton, watching. My mom was going to school there, getting her MBA, and I would go down. It was just down the street from my house. When I say just down the street, in California, Southern California, just down the street was like 14 minutes, which isn't bad because everything else is about a hour and a half drive. In other words, like 17 miles. So Brian Cain got this book forwarded by Dave Serrano, who was at Cal State Fullerton and knew Ken Revisa really well. And the title of his book that I'm talking about right now, Brian Cain, is So What Next Pitch? Ken Revisa, Dave Hansen. Did I just say Dave Hansen? Dave Hansen was one of my favorite Dodgers. He was one of the best pinch hitters in baseball in the 90s. I meant Tom Hansen. Anyways, Tom Hansen and Ken Revisa's main message, they had a lot of great tips in their book here, many of great strategies and tips and suggestions and wisdom, but the main message was one pitch at a time. One pitch at a time. Don't worry about the last pitch. Learn from it. Okay, what'd you do? Okay, it didn't work out. Okay, what can I do a little different? Stick with the process. Stick with what you've been working on in practice, and then get to the next pitch. Focus on the pitch right in front of you. And this is so useful as a coach. Have you ever watched the really, really great coaches and the ones that don't blow up when something goes against them, when the call goes against them, when the play goes against them, their player makes a bad mistake? You see this a lot in football because coaches are more involved with the play-to-play, play calling the defensive schematic, and then they're also putting in the play calls and things like that on offense. They don't get caught up. The fans, we'll be on the sofa at home, and we'll still be talking about that play for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, harping on the refs, and you'll see people in the stand shaking their head at the Jumbotron for 5 minutes. But the coach, the good coaches, and you can tell who are the good coaches, they've moved past this. In fact, if I was an NFL owner, an NFL or Major League Baseball owner, or an NBA owner, I would look at a coach that can move to the next play, the next pitch, the next time up the court or down the court, and that doesn't get caught up in the last thing too much. Maybe make a note of it. This is a good thing. Make a note of it and then move on. This is one thing, or one reason I use a calendar. I like using a calendar. I never used a calendar until about 10 years ago, and now I use it religiously because it doesn't make me focus and think about the future too much. I think of something, I plan it out, I put it on the calendar, I set it, and forget it. And the same thing can go for past performances or in-game performances as a coach. You can write it down, take a little note, put it in your phone. I would write it down on a clipboard, on a little notepad, and then that's something you can come back to as a coach. It allows you as a coach to move to the next pitch, the next play. A very inexperienced coach, a coach who doesn't really grasp or understand really the idea of this pitch to pitch, one pitch at a time, next, so what, next pitch mentality that is so important. But you see the experienced coaches that stick with this, that are so great. I remember coaching with a football coach, and the ref would make we perceived as a bad call or a bad non-call or whatever, and I would look over at him, and he was like, on to the next play call. He was on to the next play call. He might have written something down, and then he was on to the next play call. He brought it up sometimes after the game. He might have addressed it after the game, but it was like it was gone and done, and it was like, geez, that was 4 seconds ago, and he was already on to calling the next play, on to the next thing. One pitch at a time, staying present. That's the biggest message from this book. Next week, we're going to dive into 3 more big tips. Also, I'm going to talk about batting, hitting next week. I read a great article by Doug Latta. Really like Doug Latta. He does some good stuff. He's a baseball coach. He's a private sector coach out in Southern California. I love his attitude, and he talks about something that is so important for baseball players, for athletes, for pitchers, for hitters. We're going to talk about that, specifically his recommendation, his suggestion, the biggest needle mover when it comes to hitting. He just flat out says it. This is the biggest thing when it comes to hitting. He lays out the 2 biggest things. He has an 80-20 baseball mindset. He has an 80-20 baseball mindset. I read an article on Fangraphs. I subscribe to Fangraphs. Really like Fangraphs. They do some phenomenal stuff. The thing about Fangraphs is it's a little advanced. It's really good for college, advanced high school and college and pro coaches. It's a little advanced for youth baseball, but what I can do is take it and I can distill it down into useful points for you coaches that coach youth baseball that are extremely intelligent, can completely understand everything that's being said. It's just a matter of having somebody with an experienced eye or knowledge of the game to kind of look at it and go, okay, what do we need to take out, or what can we, eliminate, subtract? How can we simplify this message and then present it to the youth baseball coaches, you coaches that just have day jobs that are keeping you busy. You have families that are keeping you busy, hobbies and other interests that are keeping you and your time busy, and rightfully so. But you want to be good baseball coaches. You want to go out there prepared and do well. Even though it's just youth baseball, you want to go out there, have success, help players be better, help them optimize their game and have the best chance to succeed moving forward, become better human beings. And you want to go out there feeling prepared, feeling ready to go, confident in your coaching game. So I'll break down that article next week. He gives out his 2 biggest things. He lays it out, and he's coached a lot of really good major league hitters. But I love his message because it's really applicable, directly applicable, straight across to youth baseball hitters. So we're going to get into that next week, and we're going to dive in some more into this mental game Bible heads up baseball. And I'll leave you with this nugget from page 6 on the book. Here's this massive nugget. Playing the game 1 pitch at a time. Here we go. Ready? Everyone plays the game 1 pitch at a time physically, but very few players, consistently play the mental game 1 pitch at a time. Wow. That says a lot. Think about that. Think about that as a coach. When you understand that, and think about in life, our bodies walk through life in the physical moment, in the present moment. Physically, we are always in the present moment. That's why you hear some people say in the mental world, the Zen world, the meditation world, those people that are mental coaches, they'll say, be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. Basically, your mind, our minds are a lot of times, there's so many other places. We need to be where our feet are, because where our feet are is where we are, and that's where the present moment's going to take place. Sure, you want to plan ahead, you want to look back and reflect and learn and grow from the past, and you also want to be prepared for what's upcoming. You don't want to just wait till the last minute to get things organized and things like that. You want to be prepared, but be where your feet are. Let me read that quote one more time, and then we're going to sign off here. Everyone plays the game of baseball 1 pitch at a time physically, but very consistently, do people play the mental game? Do players play the mental game 1 pitch at a time? Playing physically 1 pitch at a time? Yep, of course, we have to. But our mind, let's keep our players from a snag. It's like fishing. You're reeling in your pole. If you're anything like me, I'm not the best fisher. I love fishing. I'm not the greatest snag. You get a snag, you don't want a snag. A snag is when your fly or your spinner bait or your power bait with the hook, your power baits fall off, your worms come off, you got your hook and you're reeling it in, you catch a rock, catch some weeds. You don't want to snag and be stuck. You want to keep that moving forward, that mental game moving forward, that presence. You don't want to get snagged on a negative thought. You don't want to get snagged on a bad play and get stuck and stalled. We don't want our players to get snagged on the bottom. We want them to keep moving forward, a nice smooth progression from one pitch to the next, one pitch at a time. All right, coaches, always great being here with you. Hey, big news. Pitching webinar is on. The date is set, February 24th. February 24th, so in about 2 weeks, 7:30 to 9 Eastern time. So do the math. I'm in Mountain Time, 5:30 to 7 Mountain Time. Do the math. 7:30 to 9 Eastern time. Email me, coachbo@8020baseball.com. If you're interested in that, we will be covering a lot of stuff. I'm going to be walking you through live. I'm going to be walking you through the 80-20 of baseball pitching mechanics that will allow you, that will get you much more prepared, much more confident going out there and working with your pitchers, not just to throw strikes, which is huge, command, but also holding the running game and staying healthy. So it's about commanding the pitch, getting outs, holding the running game, and staying healthy. We're going to break that all down in that 90-minute webinar. Email me, coachbo@8020baseball, or go to the website, 8020baseball. If you haven't been there already, go over there. I got about 13 articles or 13 videos and a dozen articles, bunch of good stuff. It can consume you with a bunch of information for hours. You can also contact me through our website. All right, go live life one moment at a time. Keep that mindset in life. So what? Next pitch. So what? Next thing, let's move forward, let's get better, and let's not get snagged on our negative pass and things like that. And we want to work with that with our players, how that looks, how it unpacks itself, how it unfolds for you as a coach. Hey, here's the paradigm, here's the goal, here's what we need to be careful of and aware of, how it comes to be, how it comes to fruition with your coaching game. Go out there, make it happen, make it fit with your coaching game, and we'll see you back here next week at the 80-20 Baseball podcast, the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass, where we are trying to master the most important things in baseball: mental game, pitching, hitting, game prep, practice strategies, etc. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your families. Take this information, go out there, make the baseball community, make your team better, make the community better, have fun. See you next time. Adios.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Masterclass. Take it to the field.